This right here is how I make all my settlement maps. This is called Inkarnate. It's a web application map maker. It's quite popular, but in case you're not familiar with it, I'll walk you through how it works. Here's some settlements I've made from hamlets, villages, towns, and more. Downloads for all of them are available for our apprentice tier patrons. If you're a dungeon master and you're currently running in a homebrew world that's a hodgepodge of town maps you found online, maybe you generated them, and you find yourself saying stuff like, imagine this river isn't here, or there's actually a big keep just slightly off map, I think your solution is right here. Or if you want to make your own battle maps. At the moment, I make all my setting maps in Inkarnate, and I really like doing it. Since I've started, I've created countless settlements exactly as I imagined them, quickly, easily, and not just that, it's a lot of fun. The entire process is kind of meditative. Welcome to Mystic Arts, where I share with you that in my spare time, I don't paint minis, I make maps. My name is Daði, I'm a professional writer and director, and I've been DMing for 10 years. In this bonus episode, I'm at my desk in my bedroom, since that's where I prep, and that's where I use Inkarnate. I love sitting in my bedroom on my free nights and just noodling away on a map for hours, and I do it all the time. But also, I've been in situations where I've only had an hour to get a town ready, and I was able to whip one up in Inkarnate in a matter of minutes. Let's make a map. Inkarnate offers various different styles for map making, and there's an asset library that comes with each style. So when you make a map, it asks you to pick a style. Is this a map of a world, or a region, a town, or a battlefield? I really like these watercolor maps, but if you've seen my world map on my wall in my living room, and you want to make something like it without using Photoshop like I did, then Parchment World would probably get you most of the way there. Let's make a town. I'll show you how easy it is. It starts by asking you to pick a resolution and a frame. They measure it in tiles. I tend to pick landscape because when I put up maps, I put them on the TV in my living room. And if I make them in portrait, the map is smaller. But if I make them in landscape, I use the 16:9 aspect ratio. So most of my towns are landscapes at that point. When you load in, it starts with just a big old ocean. There is no land on here, and that's fine. What you want to do is you want to go here into the mask tool, add brush size. You can mess with the roughness or the mask effects, and it gives you a little brush, and you paint the land. So if you want to make an island, you just make a little blob, and then that's your island. Or you can make a little coastline. You got a little coastline, and then you mess around with this. You just try and draw sort of blobby little shapes. You can go to subtract, add a little river. All good towns come with a river. Paint in the river mouth a bit, so it sort of widens. And, there you go. This is the basis of a town. I tend to find that my towns look better if I start by placing the landscape. I put landscape on the map, and then I imagine how the town built itself into the landscapes. You can go to the stamp setting here on the side, and it starts by showing you a house, but we're not going to use a house just yet. We're going to go ahead and pick a landscape. This one's a little hill. This one's a bigger hill. Let's make a big hill over here. I don't know why. We'll figure it out. Let's make an even bigger hill. Just sort of here, right? This is a hill composite. This is one of the core assets, which is one of the ones available for free, but I paid for the yearly subscription. I think it's only $25 a year. So I figured that's not all that much for how much I use it. Feel free to make your own call on that. And you can scroll around here, and I'm going to go find terrain, and I'm going to find these grassy hill composites that are really big. And I'm going to put some of them here that go kind of off map like that. Put a little gap in them because I know I want people to be able to walk up there, and I want the map of the town to look like people do walk up there. I'll put another hill sort of over here, maybe another one over here. And now we've got some hills. And already I'm starting to see the constraints I'm working with, and constraints are useful. Whenever you're creating something, just find yourself adding a few constraints onto it, and suddenly the scope of your project kind of becomes more clear to you. I'm going to create a group. We're going to call this terrain, and then I'm going to lock it, so that I don't mess with this again. Next up, I'm not really comfortable moving on with the town until I've figured out the key assets. So what I like doing is I go to the stamp tool and I go to this big category. I look at special buildings and I think, is there a big church? Is there a coliseum? How big is this town? Well, I think the town isn't all that big. I think this is a small village, so we can make it for one YouTube video. Well, maybe we decide it's got a huge cathedral in it. No, I don't think so. But it might have one of these churches. This one's a fairly big church. Let's put a church on one of these hills. How would it face? Like that. Yeah. Notice I'm rotating it here. I'm holding down Control and the scroll wheel, and I can rotate. It's got all the instructions for the shortcuts right here at the bottom. If you remember our video on Obsidian, I talked a lot about editing at the speed of thought. That's kind of what I'm doing here. You can also hold down Control and Alt, and it rotates in fine detail. Let go of Alt, and it's sort of block move. and then find detail, click. There you go, you got a little church. Oh, there's a windmill, you know, I can put a little windmill here. You can hold down Alt and cycle, and then you get the different stamps. This one's a red roof, this one's a blue roof, sort of deep crimson. Let's do the sort of paler one. And sorry, this is not a windmill, this is a water mill. I'm gonna get some comments on that, right? This is not a big river, it's not navigable, so I'm not worried about placing assets over it. If it were bigger, I might make some ships be able to sail up it a little, but I don't think it's big enough for that. Continuing to place key assets, let's go put down a bridge. Where bridges are is an important factor into how the town was built, so I don't think we can wait a lot on that. Here you go, got a little bridge. Bridges are really expensive, so in a small town, they might only have one bridge. You can collapse categories when they're in your way. I do that sort of brutally. I don't look at the elves one, the frames, the ghost town, the foliage, or gothic, horror, or holidays, you know. Maybe there's a ruin. Let's have there be a ruined tower. Sometimes I look at things on here and I realize it's telling me a lot about the place. Suddenly I'm learning a lot. Why is there a ruined tower here next to this church? What happened? I don't know. It's okay not knowing. Once you embrace not knowing, you get into this sort of feeling of just creating for creation's sake, and you trust yourself that eventually you will figure all these things out. Next up, I want to place an inn. Here's a big inn, red roof, sure. I think the big inn probably is either by the river or it's by the entry into the town, sort of further away. But I think I'm going to put it kind of at the center of town, right here by the river. What else do we have? Fighters Guild, Mages Guild, Merchants Guild, Big Merchants Guild. You know, this could be like some rich person's house. Put that down. Blacksmith. All right, let's put down a blacksmith. Here we have like a logging camp or something like that. Let's put that up here, and we're going to decide that this place has a bunch of trees in it, right? That's what's on this hill. Trees. Shipyard? No, it's not that kind of town. Theater? Maybe. Brewery. Yeah, there's a brewery next to the inn. Like that. What you try and do when you're doing these things is you also try and realize the fact that you're sort of, when you place your assets, you're kind of making the shape of your town. You know, I've sort of accidentally here created a road that goes this way and one that goes this way. We'll try and keep those in mind. Leather workers. Absolutely. Leather workers would be at the edge of town because they stink. They do tanning, they're boiling horses and stuff, so we're going to put them all the way here at the fringe. As you can see, I'm just placing down some key assets, something that I think the town should have. Let's put down a windmill. I love a good windmill. Maybe there's a windmill here up on this hill. It seems like a good spot for a windmill. Not taking too much up of the hill because I think there's a keep. So we're going to make a little keep. Scroll down. And what you can do is you can use the pen tool to make walls. Pen. Stroke color. And you can make the stroke color be a wall. And you can say, all right, this here is a keep. Look, it's made some walls. Right now it doesn't look like much. We're going to put a little fortification in here. We're going to make a little tower that takes over the wall here. We're going to stick these little rooftops here on the rest of the towers. So there are little towers all over the place. Make a little gatehouse. This is a gatehouse with a moat. We can also make one that doesn't have a moat. And now you've got a sort of fortified position. You could take it a step further if you want to put another tower in here. We can make another house inside the keep itself, like a chapel. Good keeps have chapels in them. You're really noodly. You can get all the way in and decide to put in a statue. In details, statues, we can have a man on a horse, we can have a man, soldier, monk. I like the man on a horse, I use him a lot. So here we go, man on a horse. Now it doesn't look like much, but basically, I think this is kind of the overall shape of our town, mostly down. Hey, that rhymed. Farms, we need farms. One last thing before we stop, let's make some farms. I think the farms are kind of up here, and maybe there's another one up here. So we're gonna put a little house in here like that. This is going to be the Baron's farm. Maybe we can change this. So let's say we don't like the blue on it, and you know we could always get the yellow stamp, but let's say we want to get our own color. We can go to advanced settings. You can see here saturation, hue. Hue shifts the color, so we can go neater. Maybe it's got this kind of orangey roof, you know? Maybe this kind of color. And you can do this with anything. You can select the windmill and you can go green, you know. What if it's purple? Actually, what if all this is purple? What if they have purple roofs? That's like royalty, right? Purple, look at that. Gorgeous. You can play around a whole bunch with these things. Play some more farms, and we go back to the pen tool and we grab a fence, and we can create little fenced off farm fields. Like so. We can link them together, create these sort of rectangles, which is often how you see farmland in the countryside. Create these little blocks out of it, like that. And again, it doesn't look like much, but I think basically we've got the town sort of set up. We can go through and add some more details if we want. We want to make a little, make a stairway for them to get up here. That seems neat. You don't have to. You can also do, they could also be ruined stairs for this ruined tower, or these kind of natural stairs for the church, maybe. Or here, I'm just going to leave it wide enough that I can believe that that is how it looks. Next up, we go to the houses and we use the stamp tool very brutally, because that's going to allow us to get this done fast. We can chuck some houses down, and you can see it automatically cycles through the houses. And now we've created a little coast side road here. And the reason we like putting the terrain down first is because now when we put down the houses, the roads become these sort of curved shapes as they try and conform to the landscape. And it ends up looking a little bit more natural as we try and sort of stick these houses here to make sense with the hill. And you can put them on the counter as well. And as you do that, you sort of start creating the shape of roads. Put little holes in for where you think the intersection should go. You can put these corner assets in there as well and create little clusters. Sometimes you can see these assets show up and you kind of realize, oh yeah, that's where this road is going to be. And you slowly just sort of go around and chuck down these assets. And you're going to find that you have a town a lot quicker than you thought you would. Oh, here we have the same asset twice. Sometimes I have that happen. I just delete it. I put another one down. It's not that much work that it really doesn't seem to bother me at all. You can also use these small red clusters and create these kind of more informal shapes. See here, now we've sort of created a main thoroughfare that goes down here and out here. And we just sort of let the stamps inspire us. We don't need to come in here with a whole design. You know, maybe I described this town last session. I told the players there were a couple of hills, a keep, a church, and the river. And now the exact details of everything else really doesn't matter all that much. I'm going to leave this blank. Now, if you wanted to, you can also get these sort of big blocks in, and they can be your house clusters if you have a big city. Or you could just create this kind of thoroughfare here of them, but I don't really want to right now, so I'm not gonna. You can also separate districts by having the colored roofs change. So this one's gonna have yellow roofs just to tell us this is a different district. Sometimes you get a road that's really wide, so you just stick an asset in the middle of it, and now it's two roads. Notice how we're building the roads with the houses. We're never drawing the roads first. We let the stamps, the house stamps, decide where to put those things. You can go and draw in all the roads first. There's nothing wrong with that. But I find this really makes the process fun and iterative. I sort of continually learn more about the town I'm making. You just plop down these assets, have a lot of fun with them. You don't get too worried about exactly what is in each house, because you will figure all of that out. Then you can slowly sort of thin it out as you get further and further away from the center of town, implying that it's getting more sparsely populated. And you could also, instead of placing down these big stamps, you can get this individual houses thing and just sort of have it shuffle through these things as you slowly but surely kind of bridge the gap. Now, it doesn't look like much right now, but I think we're basically almost done with the stamp generation. We're going to go to the brush tool, which I typically leave for near the end, and we're going to try and do a little bit of brushing on this. So first off, we've got this default grass texture everywhere. Notice I'm on the background layer and there's a foreground layer. So the background is the ocean and the foreground is the top. So if I put it on foreground grass, nothing happens in the ocean. But on background, I'm painting in the ocean. So what we could do is we could make there be a deeper blue out here. We can make the brush be really big, really soft. So that was hard, really soft. But we can also make it be low opacity. So it doesn't really do all that much per brush stroke, but we can kind of additively add in paint layers. Look at that. Isn't this just so relaxing doing this stuff? I love it. There's this other brush, which is sort of detailed grass. Make sure to click the foreground layer, and then I can use this detailed grass to be the higher elevation grass for all the hills, just to make them sort of stand out. You don't need to be super accurate with this. You can just kind of slap it on. It's remarkable how much that does. And since we put it on low opacity, make sure to give it a little extra dap in the middle. And then you can put even lower opacity for these kind of transitionary zones. And now we've got this kind of elevation in the map. Next, we've got the sand one. We can make sure to put a little beach here to explain why the town didn't build on that part. And remember, we're doing low opacity brushes, so several goes over might help. You can also go grab different ones and layer. So this one I could put even lower opacity and just layer a bit of color in here. And you'll find it actually sort of elevates the whole map a little bit just by these tiny little additive strokes as you go along. Grass dark, you know, put that up on here. Make sure to paint these hills up. Grass white, we can put that out here. Or it's like paler, I guess. Put that out here. Sometimes I just sort of slap on these various colors and I don't pay too much mind to what I'm doing. I just make sure to have the brush set low and I sort of run it through just to create a bit of chaos in it. Because what I'm about to do is I'm about to make this all kind of make a bit more sense when I put the roads in. So let's go grab our road tool. But before we do that, let's go put down some dirt. Dirt is an excellent foundation for roads. You can just sort of layer on these kind of dirt paths. You don't have to do it all that aggressively. You can, you know, just a bit of dirt to tell us that this is a well-trodden path, right? Dirt, dirt, dirt. Dirt. Make sure to get the roads here. And if it's a well-traveled road, you could decide to really paint it in, but you could also just sort of go a little bit more relaxed on it through the town, you know, between the houses so that we can see, oh, this is where the people walk, just like that. You can layer it on outside the farmsteads where maybe there's more dirt. And then you leave these little patches of green to remind us that this is a serene little village. If you overdo it, you'll sort of get lost in it. Here you go. Just a little bit of dirt up here. And now you got these kind of rough roads coming in. Then you can go in and you can get the streak textures. And there is streak texture contrast, and I'll show you what that looks like. It really just overtakes the entire paint job. And maybe that's what you want. For instance, up to this keep, we might just want it to be exclusively that. And inside the keep, we just want it to take over. We just want it to be like the keep has nice, clean stonework. But there's also road contrast, road alpha. Alpha meaning it's like a PNG. There's no background to it. You could paint it over any texture. You could even paint it over the ocean and it lets the background through. We can put that on foreground. We can scale it down a bit. We can make sure it's not the hardest surface, but maybe we want it a little hard. And what's good is you can sort of paint that on the same way. If you're doing the main thoroughfare, you might sort of go several passes with your brush. Here, hang on. Here, maybe we just have the church road sort of be on the grass, all kind of clean and nice. And you use your opacity against the dirt to kind of decide how fancy it is, right? Now, I think we undercooked it with the dirt. So we're going to go another pass of dirt over all this. And now we sort of muddy the cobblestone a bit. I don't think that looks fantastic. I think it's kind of rough, actually. But that's okay. Make it softer and bigger and just sort of go through here and dirty up the road. Now, layering is a lot of fun. You can get a lot of good looking stuff out of it, but I think right now we're ruining it. That's fine. It's important to let yourself ruin things every once in a while because not everything has to be perfect, because then you can layer these back on and I think they'll look a little better, right? Now we got a little square that sort of formed there. That's okay. That's fine. Sometimes you discover those things. Went a bit too broad there. Undid. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. I also want to make sure that this patch becomes extra green and pretty. Same I want to do here. And I want to place some trees. I think there should be a bunch of trees around. Trees are an easy way to quickly elevate the map. So we grab this core tree brush and you can go click, 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 put down trees like that. But that's insane. We're not going to do that. We're going to go into place, multiple, area, density. Now we can sort of just brush on the trees. You know what I mean? And you can increase the density here where they're I was going to say mining, but where they're chopping down all the trees. Maybe reduce the area to make sure you can paint them in. For some reason, it's misbehaving there. That's okay. We'll get back to it. Now I just blocked a bit of road. That's okay. Don't let yourself panic about any of these things. Here you go. Da-da-da-da-da. You know, trees are an excellent way to also cover up some of your brushing mistakes. You then grab the individual tree, put it on single, break up with it, and then you can sort of place them individually to get the individual dressing of it. Poor Tanner, we forgot to put a road there. That seems almost in character. Nobody likes the Tanner. Here we go. Put a little road. Actually, let's just have it be dirt. Just a little dirt path. There we go. And let's grab not the fancy step thing, but this kind of. You can copy paste. Control V, Control C, Control V. There you go. I blocked the road here. We're gonna delete a couple of trees. You know, and you can always go back. You don't need to finish anything in a single pass. You can always go back and let's do the farms. We haven't done the farms yet. We can go up here into farm textures. The farm is oriented this way, but the wheat is oriented that way. So what we can do is we can go to advanced settings, rotation. You can rotate the entire stamp. And I want this full opacity, and the brush size is fairly small because otherwise I'm gonna hit the hard edges. And you know, you can go really detailed with this, but a lot of the time I find that I just sort of slap it on. That seems to do the job real nice. Do the same thing here. While I have one brush selected, I usually just do them all. Here, rotate them to a point where we think it makes sense, like that. Oh, it's a little too rough for my taste. There we go, a bit better. Make sure to paint a few of these in. Let's get that one over there. Let's get this one over here. You can also mess with the texture scale if you want. For instance, if you want to make a really huge map, you don't have to make all maps be of this scale. You can go to the brush stamp thing and take a house, and you could just say this, the brush stamp scale size is 17 now. And then the houses are tiny, and then you can place a bunch of tiny houses and you just set everything to 17 scale, and then you know you're operating at that scale, and that's how you do everything else, right? That's how you adjust your wheat brushes, for instance. I'll show you a map like that in a bit. Here you go, here's an unfarmed field. We're gonna rotate that texture as well, just like that way, like been tilled, but not harvested or not, you know, nothing's been sown there. Here's another one. We're gonna rotate it this way. Now, how do I decide which way to rotate? I don't know, I just make a call. Decide what I think looks best. Sometimes I do a little sloppy job like I did just there. Color outside the lines, that's all right. Just put a tree over it. Nobody needs to know, right? Same here, just put some trees down. It's a farmy road, that's okay. You can cover it up a whole bunch with your trees, and it effectively looks like you did detail work, so don't worry about it. You just slap it on. It's all about creating that illusion that you've done a bunch of work. The forest here, for instance, looks a bit sort of boring. So what we can do is we can grab this. There is a forest floor, brush size, big, put that on there. You know, just sort of paint that on top. Here I want a little path. So I just make a little stone path with a contrast brush. Or sorry, the alpha brush. Here we go. Connects nicely. Oh, we had that little town square. Let's do something with that. Put a little well on it. And we can also put markets. Market stalls. Neener. Market stall. These are great. You can just sort of put them down on multiple. You can go boop, like you do with the trees, or you can go single and just sort of click. You get this kind of market vibe. You know, here I've sort of messed this up a bit, so I'm just going to move that asset a bit. Oh, there's a church there. Let's put a little graveyard next to it. Graveyard, these graves in there. And now we're basically done. We could put some clouds if we want. We can make them be low opacity and they can jump out, kind of obscuring things a little, creating this depth. You can also use this smoke plume asset, put that on higher opacity and put it just over some of the chimneys. I find that usually does a bunch, you know, out of the smithy, you know, whatever you think you want to sort of draw attention to, you can put a little smoke plume on it. You know, these farms. Oh, I forgot to paint in that farm over there. And there you go. You made a town. Genuinely been 20 minutes, 30 minutes of me recording this. You could save it, give it a name. Let's call it Mysticarum, because we did it for this video. What I like to do afterwards is bring things into Photoshop, and I put up a whole bunch of names for things, and I sort of put these texts to indicate that there's something there, to kind of tag it, and then, you know, I put down Melrose Shallow, Eaton Isle, Calian Sea, and I put this tag here, Millreed, blah, 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 blah. You can see here I didn't use fences, I used hedges. I think they look really nice too. This one I did with a bit more time. And you can name everything. You can do that in Inkarnate. I don't like to. I'm good at Photoshop, so I try and use Photoshop as much as I can. And I think a lot of the times, you know, it's easy to forget the value in just putting names to things. When you're doing this kind of stuff, you know, just saying Eaton Isle, I don't know who Eaton is, assuming it's a person of some kind. I don't know what their deal is, but this is their island. You know, here's a house with a well in it. It's called MR7. We go look at MR7. Eaton Estate. Okay, so there's somebody important named Eaton. I haven't written any notes for this town. I've just done this map, but already I know somebody with the last name Eaton is important. That's kind of the value of a name. You could just sort of name things and see where that goes. If you want, you can then take a map like this. Here's one I did for another town, and here's the key I have for it. And you could bring it into Obsidian, and you can write little descriptions for each of the things you've mentioned. You don't have to do that. I think there's a lot of value in just leaving it empty. Oh, here's Eaton again. I think it's a different Eaton. You can tag everything. You can do a whole bunch of stuff. You can go crazy with this stuff. Finally, you should go check out r/Inkarnate. It's a whole community of people making stuff for their games. They've got these continents or cities or whatever, and you can go and check them out and download their maps. And a lot of the times they've left links so that you can go edit their map. There's a feature on sharing, and I'll do this with this map in the description. And if you want the rest of our maps, come join our apprentice tier Patreon. But you can share the map. You can go publish map, and you can say allow others to clone your map, and that means they can open it on their side in Inkarnate and move things around and change things. Sometimes I go in the subreddit, I find someone's amazing town, and then I say, oh, you know, I don't think this is here, and I think this is a little different. So I clone it, and then I can open it up on my end, and I can do all kinds of changes to it. And it's really easy and quick, and it's so creative. That's where we'll pick it up next time. Thanks so much for watching. This channel is run by me and my girlfriend. If you want to support us, consider becoming a channel member or joining our Patreon, where you can get access to a bunch of maps I created, and I'll allow you to clone them all if you want. If you want to be especially generous, you could like the video, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified when we release new videos. If you want a video about how to use Obsidian to take notes, go ahead and click somewhere on screen this direction. Until next time, keep studying the mystic arts.